Okay, welcome to the Deschutes County Legislative Update Meeting. This is Friday, January 31st. Just a note for me personally, as I say, if you sign up for these things, you get a notification 15 minutes before from Google and YouTube saying, tune in live to the Deschutes County Legislative Update Meeting. So it's just interesting seeing the technology evolve over time. With that, is Doug Riggs with us?
He's on.
Yeah.
Great.
I saw
And
him. Oh, yeah, there he is.
yeah, go ahead, Jen, if you have anything else to kick off with.
Okay, I can start. I just have one thing to review. I've gotten a few questions from different staff on procedures for providing testimony or written testimony or letters of support. So I thought I would review where I think we are, and I wanted to check in with the commissioners to ensure that's kind of the guidance that staff should have. So what I have been telling people is if you're providing testimony or information based on a program that is existing within Deschutes County and just providing an update on that program, then you can do that without checking in or without getting the approval from the board. However, we do recommend that you send an email to the board letting them know. If you're wanting to provide testimony or written testimony in support or opposition or whatever the position is for a bill with a priority that has been discussed and approved by the majority of the board, then you are clear also to go ahead and provide that if it's within the purview of the approval that the board gave. But and again, please provide a heads up email to the board that you're going to be doing that. If you would like to provide testimony in any form on a position that has yet to be discussed by the board, we would like to request that you come to the board first. If it's a time sensitive manner, there are the options to go before the board on the Monday or Wednesday under other items for that topic if it can't wait until Friday. So then that gives a Monday, Wednesday, Friday option to have that discussed before the board to get that, to ensure that that testimony is within the majority of the board's approval. So that's where we are with the guidance. And so I just wanted to check in with the commissioners to make sure that that feels right and how you would like that guidance to be given out to the staff.
Great. Yeah. So Commissioner Dare, Commissioner Chang, any thoughts? And this is just kind of setting the tone for testifying and understanding positions on the bills.
I guess one question I have about this approach is whether it matters what level of support we've expressed for, what level of priority we put on a bill. I mean, I like the idea of just empowering staff to go and testify and work on bills that we've expressed support for. But, you know, if it's a priority 3 for us versus a priority 1 or anything like that, are all the commissioners comfortable with empowering staff equally in those cases?
Well, I would say yes, because when I think of the priority 1, 2, and 3, I think of our legislative efforts, our professionals in the building, referring to Doug Riggs and his folks, you know, knowing that, okay, let's take this to the next level. If it's a 1, number 2 says it's real important, number 3 says it's supported. So I think of it as just resources. And obviously, yeah, I mean, if we're taking if it's either thumbs up or thumbs down, that's the starting point and staff can run with it. Commissioner Dare, are you able to?
Yes. Are we even looking at anything on our legislative report that's a 3? I just went through it and looked, and other than the dark blue, that it looks like everything that's on our report is a 1 or a 2, one way or another. But if it's 3 and they're writing a support from Deschutes County, I don't think I'd be happy with that.
So that's correct. The report only shows priority 1 or 2. So along those points, unless something was brought up as a priority 1 or 2 in this call and then was moved down to a priority 3, it wouldn't have been a bill that the commissioners would have discussed collectively. So there's a couple things you could do in that case. You know, give them the purview to go ahead if you had discussed it and it was moved down, or just ensure that they come before you either the Monday or the Wednesday under other items or on the Friday for something that's other than a priority 1 or 2, because it wouldn't naturally have been discussed in this meeting.
So for the next 5 months or so, as the legislative session's in session, I do support that Monday, Wednesday, Friday opportunity. Other items, or if somebody knows of a bigger topic that that somebody knows about on, well, I was thinking Thursday, but we talk about it on Friday. But we could also roll something over from this meeting to Monday or Wednesday also. So just offering that. Other commissioners have thoughts on that? Yeah, okay. So is that the clarity you need, Jen, and department heads, just making sure we're on the same page here?
Yeah, I think so. I think it sounded like there was at least a consensus among the board for the guidance that I laid out to move forward in that capacity.
Yeah, well, and we know that even if we get a little indecisive or taking positions or whatever we do as commissioners, there's the association from each different department too, which is another way to advocate. As I say, I mean, if it gets really to be an interesting topic, let's make sure we're bringing it to these meetings for discussion, because the associations usually have a position also. With that, we'll go on to our regular agenda. Or anything else, Jen? Sorry.
Nope, that was all for me.
Okay.
Maybe Doug has an update for us
Okay.
today. I'm not sure.
So Janice is saying request for that guidance in writing, please.
Yeah, absolutely. I can send that out in an email.
Okay. And then, yeah, CCS on that so we all see the same words. And then, as I say, if something needs to be slightly edited, we can be fluid in this also.
Will do.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to give an update. So welcome everyone, Doug Riggs on behalf of the county. I think Corey and Emma are also on from our team. Week 2, so hard to believe we're 2 weeks into it and we're not even in February. You know, typically, as I've pointed out in the past, we started the second day of February, usually the Tuesday of the first week of February. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule on the calendar, but I'd say we're a little behind schedule just because there are so many new members in this session. It really is incredible. I met with 7 of the brand new House members this week, had very good meetings with them all. And of course, many of those have, great experience in other roles, like Senator Broadman on the city council and as an attorney for Central Oregon Interest. So, people like him are really up to speed on our issues and know what's important. But there's so many issues that every legislator is kind of drinking from a fire hose during the session. So we're all trying to get around and meet with them. A lot of the committees are trying to get up to speed on, share information. Oregon Health Authority, DHS, big agencies, brand new members on committees who don't know, how does the Medicaid program work? How does the CCO program work? So that's a lot of what we're seeing right now is kind of orientations in the committees and getting acclimated to the new session. A couple big things that happened in the building. All Wednesday afternoon was a memorial service for Peter Courtney, who, of course, is the longest serving Senate president ever. Really a great service and ceremony, very interesting to watch. Tim Knopp was one of the speakers, demonstrated Courtney's kind of bipartisan approach in a lot of ways. Sad to see him go. And I'd say in general, the mood seems to be fairly calm and fairly collegial. I'd say much more so than the beginning of the last 2 or 3 sessions. So we'll see how long that lasts. But so far, a lot of kind of collaboration that we're seeing. I'd point out a couple big things that are of interest to counties that weren't necessarily calm and collegial. 2 of them were in the transportation arena. One is the issue of a bill that's been introduced to pause the DEQ's clean air regulations on medium and large trucks, and that generated quite a contentious hearing on Tuesday night in the Joint Committee on Transportation, and then yesterday another hearing where the bill is assigned in the House Committee on Climate. And we have a couple of members from our delegation who are on that committee. So that was fairly controversial, with DEQ taking a position that the rules ought to be continued. And a lot of the trucking entities and the manufacturers, including Daimler Chrysler, arguing that they need to be paused for technical reasons, that there just isn't the technology to catch up. So we'll see where that goes. And then the other big issue that is, I think, potentially going to roil the whole discussion on transportation funding is the governor's executive order requiring PLAs for all large construction projects around the state. And that, I think, has the capacity to completely derail a transportation package. So that is something that is going to have to be worked out. There hasn't been a lot of discussion in hearings about that yet, but there have been several articles about this, and there's quite a bit of discussion and talk among members. So those two issues. The other issue I'll mention is that yesterday afternoon was the first hearing on the Tyler versus Hennepin property tax foreclosure bills. There are 3 bills. We had extensive discussions about this issue last year, but a work group was put together in the summer. We all thought that the work group had kind of arrived at a kind of a consensus on what the bills would look like, and then the bills emerge and they don't do anything that we thought we had agreed on. So there was quite a bit of dissatisfaction about the way the bills were drafted. Miles Palacios from the Association of Oregon Counties, I thought, gave very good testimony yesterday. And I've talked to several of the committee members. I think they understand that we need to work on amendments. Last thing I'll say is that we know that one of the key topics in this session is going to be behavioral health. There are almost too many behavioral health bills to count so far, and we're only halfway there as far as the number of bills introduced are indicating. LC is indicating we might be close to 5,000 bill draft requests that they've received. That's 25 to 30% more than in a typical long session. I'm sure that many of those will be behavioral health bills. So there are rate bills, there are workforce bills, there are CCO reform bills that include behavioral health and substance use treatment, et cetera. So stay tuned. Holly and Janice and their teams are going to be busy, along with Dee Dee and her team and the district attorney who's here, dealing with estimating and analyzing the impact of these on the county. So that's for a later time, but this list that we're looking at will grow, and a lot of them will be those types of bills. So sorry to take so long, but that's a quick update.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for being in the building, getting a feel for what's going on, some of the topics, because this is being to be real dynamic. I think of having this super majority, and not judging, but super majority. There could be some things that just pop up in different areas. So the presence in the building is going to be real important. I want to thank you for that. I'll be there next week with Association of Oregon Counties. And I think maybe all 3 of us will be in Salem. We'll see where that goes. But yeah, exciting times. So at this time, I'm thinking we're just going to start right at the top of our legislative report, our bill tracker report, unless there's anything else. Hearing none. House Bill 2364, page 1.
Okay, this one's mine. There's a slew of bills on this topic, so I'm going to rely on Doug and Corey as these bills go through, but I just chose one that I thought was the most pertinent to the topic that we're interested in, or that potentially could be interested in. This is regarding the Oregon Department of Agriculture's grant for the wolf depredation and financial assistance grant packages. As you know, we have a wolf committee in the county. This topic has been floated, I think, in the legislative session for the last few sessions. The gist of it is having a financial multiplier to kind of change the way the grant is operating. Right now, producers and livestock owners can apply for grant funding if they have a confirmed depredation from a wolf on their livestock. And there's also a pool of funds for them to apply if they have missing livestock, but the threshold to prove the missing is much higher and more difficult, clearly for a variety of reasons. Livestock go missing for a wide variety of reasons. And so in other states like Montana and Wyoming, they've incorporated this multiplier, which basically says if you have a confirmed depredation, we think that there's financial impact on your livestock beyond that one depredation. And so it multiplies that in this case by 7, which is kind of the standard of what the multipliers have been in some of the other Western states. So it would get rid of the missing category and just have a multiplier for confirmed depredation. And then whatever that standard set, and for Deschutes County, the Wolf Committee has set a standard and working with a wide variety of things for different type of livestock, working dogs, whatever that may have been impacted. And so that would just put a multiplier in by 7, and those resources would go to the producer or livestock owner who lost a confirmed depredation to a wolf. So
Commissioner Chang, you were attending these meetings. What's your thoughts on this? Our Wolf Committee I'm referring to.
Yeah, we have been able to make use of this program over the last couple of years to address depredation losses for local ranchers, livestock producers, and also to support preventative measure projects. And those are apparently successful. We did not have confirmed depredations in Deschutes County in 2024. When this bill came up at the AOC Natural Resources Committee, I expressed support for the principle of the multiplier, but I also expressed concern about the pay for. There's only a finite amount of dollars that are allocated to this program every year, and I just asked the basic question: if we were paying out at this 7x multiplier, would there actually be enough funds to cover all the depredations? And if not, who gets cut and who doesn't? And the AOC Natural Resource Committee, in my opinion, didn't have the maturity to actually address the question. So they just, kind of move forward with support for the policy without understanding whether there was actually enough money to cover the costs, and B, whether there would be any money left over for other things like prevention projects, which, in my opinion, are more important in our community in the next couple of years than the depredation compensation, because we didn't have any depredations last year, because we're doing a good job with prevention projects. So that's my, again, in principle, I support the idea of applying this multiplier, but I want to know that there's actually the dollars there to make it happen and to cover the other important categories of expenditure for this program.
Commissioner Dare?
Commissioner DeBonne, did you really want to hear from me, since my family is the one that has the cattle running in Eastern Oregon, and I just saw a 6-year-old quarter horse that was decimated by a wolf? Because I know they're in my neighborhood, and I worry about him every day. You can hear my dog Jake; he worries too. So anyway, because he's only 50 pounds, they could take
Are
him.
you supportive of this bill?
Oh yeah, I was originally. It's 7 times, because missing cows, the cattle population in the nation is, I think, the lowest since like the 1970s. Yeah, definitely cattle don't get pregnant, but they don't get any money for that. And yes, so compensation 7 times, and when they're missing, they're missing. Who
What
knows?
about position of support in priority 3? Because we can say, yes, we support this, but I mean, is this a good legislative priority for us to, really spend more resources on?
I'd say it's a 2.
To be clear, this would eliminate the missing category.
Right.
So if we don't have depredations, but we have livestock producers claiming that they have missing animals under this new format, they would be out of luck. They would have access to nothing. So that's you know, that's another concern.
They're already out of luck. It is so hard to prove that it's actually missing. So hard to prove. Yeah. So I think you know, they've worked this
That's
up.
fine. Position 2, support.
The
Let's
proof
proceed.
is the proof is in the pudding. Last year we had missing claims that were compensated.
Yeah, well, so position 2, support, moving on. Is there support for that?
No, but 2-1.
Yeah, so let's go. Okay.
And
Next
I'll
item.
keep an eye on and see what bill actually moves forward. So the bill may change as things
Yep.
progress. Okay.
Thank you very much. House Bill 3078. Drinking water services for the Oregon Health Authority to establish pilot program for training drinking water system operators.
Yeah,
Commissioner, on the report on how it's put out, last week on 3078, you guys took a majority board position of 2 no position. So anything highlighted yellow,
Oh, yeah, okay, so
yeah, anything highlighted yellow, you have talked about and taken a support. Anything highlighted blue, you've talked about and not taken a support. And then the non-highlighted ones, they've not been discussed yet. So
okay,
there's
so
only
we're
2
not talking about
non-discussed.
yellow items today. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I was just going down. Okay, so House Bill 3112, Drinking Water Water Resources Commission to establish a program compensating groundwater right holders, voluntarily relinquishing all or portion of groundwater rights in basin designated as critical groundwater areas. So I think, yeah, we didn't get some of these because the 3 of us weren't here at the end of the meeting last week.
I said before, I'll say again, we don't have any designated critical groundwater areas, so this is not very relevant to the Deschutes Basin at this point in time.
So do we want to not see it on this bill report at this legislative session? How about monitor, position of monitor?
That would be fine.
So
You want me to do a 3 watch on this?
Yep, there you
Okay.
go. Thank you. Next item hasn't been discussed before. Senate Bill 775 requires the groundwater data generator to use for specified purposes by the DEQ, State Department of Ag, or Water Resources Commission, or Water Resource Department be peer reviewed. Groundwater data generated be peer reviewed.
Yeah, I can jump in on this. This was a discussion that we had briefly last week, and well, there were so many water bills that I mistook this for another one, 777, I think. I've done a little research. I do not believe that this bill is going to move. It's a bill that if it were in the House Committee on Agriculture, I think it would have a better chance of moving, but it's been referred to the Senate Committee on Natural Resources. I don't personally think the chair will move the bill. It might get a courtesy hearing, but I would be very surprised to see it move. It would kind of upset the apple cart as far as your typical current state process, and I'm sure will generate opposition from the governor and the agency.
So how about 3 monitor, just knowing that it's out there? Just looking for nods from the commissioners, yeah. Okay. Next item in blue, House Bill 2178. Limit standing appeals and lieu appeals to those who reside or maintain a business within 25 miles of the boundary.
If I could just, before we leave the topic of water, I just wanted to put on the radar screen that there are various Deschutes Basin stakeholders who have put forward a bill to create a water bank in the basin, or to support. You know, we already have had various water bank efforts, so I'd like, you know, we don't have to. I don't have enough information to ask us to take a position right now, but I'd like to add that to the legislative tracker so that we can discuss it in the future.
I'll
Great.
look for the bill number and add it for next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I say, so this 1 hour is going to get filled up, but we'll have time at each of our meetings in the next Mondays and Wednesdays to have some more discussions as it evolves. So yeah, 2178 appeals, LUBA, 25 miles.
So I don't know if Doug wants to weigh in, but there's a handful of bills that, in this case, this is a bill pertaining to who has standing to contest or challenge a local land use matter. As articulated, it would limit those who can participate to be within 25 miles of the proposed land use activity. It would also require them to testify in person. So obviously this would limit the processes that are in place today for the ability to submit in writing. It doesn't have any kind of geographical limitations, but there are a handful of bills that kind of the same kind of philosophy in terms of relaxing land use. In this case, this would remove the ability for opponents to challenge land use decisions. And I don't know if it makes sense if Doug wants to, you briefly touched on this, I think last week, Doug, where there was a sense that many of these bills likely won't make it through the process, but nonetheless, we can certainly go through them one by one, commissioners, if you want to take an official stance on these, because they would allow, as we work through this bill, they would allow for greater rural land use development. But anyway, to House Bill 2178, it removes the ability or prevents those that don't live proximate to a land use proposal to participate in the land use proceeding.
Peter, before we spend a whole bunch of time talking about this, could I also just ask, I don't think any of our frequent flyers would be eliminated by this. You know, I think they're all pretty local. Can you give us some perspective on that? You know, are there entities that regularly appeal or engage in land use hearings or land use application processes that aren't within 25 miles of Deschutes County?
That's a good question. I don't have a ruler, but certainly Central Oregon Land Watch, individuals like Lindsay Gould, participate in land use matters when they're not necessarily proximate to the actual proposal. 25 miles is certainly a significant radius, but I think this bill would, if this bill takes away the ability of not just on for those that are land use advocates, but even for like Oregon Property Rights Association or the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs, who's participating in land use proceedings, specifically related to Thornburg, 710 Eden properties. So that's where it really sets the limitations.
Would our friend Mr. Katsaroff from Seattle be precluded from engaging in our land use processes?
Not if he's representing the applicant. If he's independent, then yes, he would. But then Schwabe has offices, here in Bend, and then you'd have to take out the ruler and figure out where their law office is in relationship to the proposal if they were acting independently.
Yeah, if I could jump in, this is one of those bills that I do not believe will move through the process this session. So, and I agree with Peter. I think there are going to be a lot of land use and UGB bills which are aspirational, but being aspirational from the proponents being on the minority side of the aisle, and most of them are unlikely to move. These are only a handful of the much larger number of land use bills that we know about that are going to be introduced. So, what I would propose on UGB and land use bills is that staff will identify all of them and keep a very close eye on them. I would suggest putting something like this on the watch list, and if it pops up for a hearing, the process would be first it would come up for a hearing, so we'd have probably a week of notification for the hearing, and then at least another week for notification for a work session. So if it were going to come to a vote, we would have an opportunity to weigh in. But there will probably be 50 to 100 bills that are very similar to this bill.
Well, I'd support that. This could be a whole package. And as I say, if it's it's the Oregon land use system, and with our super majorities, either there's going to be a discussion or not, and it'll happen probably as a group. So I support just getting it to the watch state and see where it goes from there.
Great, thanks for that, Doug. I think that was excellent advice. Most of these that fall in that category. The ones that I again think are worth highlighting very quickly, being mindful of your time, are you still have there is Senate Bill 73. This, I don't know if this bill will actually get some traction, but this is the one that was introduced or formulated by Central Oregon Land Watch. It would eliminate essentially all non-resource land plan amendment zone changes. So we can certainly put this on the watch list as well, but this would have a chilling effect on applicants, individual property owners, demonstrating that their lands do not warrant an agriculturally zoned designation. And this is a bill that was really customized for Deschutes County. The Senate Bill 75 is the ADU fix bill. I think I would suggest the board consider supporting that bill.
We already have board consensus on that one as one support.
Oh, you do? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah, you're right. We do. That's yellow. And then the only other one that's water related that, again, it's out of my kind of subject matter expertise, is House Bill 3105, which again, we could watch. It allows one to assign their certificate of water right to another person. So for just putting that on your radar, commissioners. I certainly think determining if you want to take a stand on Senate Bill 73 is worth your consideration, or if you just want us to watch it and we can come back to it, but that'll be helpful for CDD.
Yeah, let me just,
Watch is fine with me. I've never felt like, we're going to be able to be influential in some of these discussions. I have positions and thoughts and experience, but yeah, we'll see where we go. Doug, please proceed. You were going to say.
yeah, I would concur with what Peter's recommendation. I think the two bills that he highlighted, especially Senate Bill 73, we will be asked by the committee for our position on Senate Bill 73. So maybe there is an opportunity for staff to work on a recommendation, and consulting with the commissioners. It'll probably take a little bit longer than in a short discussion in this meeting, but I do think that that's a bill that we should spend some time on.
Yeah. So let's keep it all on the watch list for now. And as I say, as this pops up Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, we can talk about it in the near future.
Great, thank you,
So just
Commissioner.
to confirm here, do you want to keep there? So there's 11 bills that have been, I think we've mentioned in the last 3 meetings here, but without official positions. So let's take Bill 73 out of that discussion. So then there's 10 bills. Do you want to keep those 10 bills on here as a 2 watch, or do you want to move them to a 3 watch that takes them off of this report for now?
Taking them off the report's fine for me, because as I say, they'll move as a body of work if something starts to happen in that world.
Is
Other
there
thoughts?
board support for that?
Actually, I'd like to leave them on. With 5,000 bills going, at least these are in my face.
Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, bills that aren't going anywhere, I think it's appropriate to put them in the watch category or take them off the tracker entirely.
So let's put them on 3 watch. So they'll be close. They just won't be on this Friday morning bill list.
So then
Yeah, so-
I'll leave Senate Bill 73 here, and then I can talk to Peter separately if we want to put that as a work item under a board meeting.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Yeah, and let me just clarify that if they're still on the list as a 3 watch, we will still be watching them. And if they move at all, then they'll be elevated to, we can elevate them to a track and bring them back to the commission. So, and then Commissioner Adair, if there's any of these in particular that you want us to keep an eye on or talk with the committee and see if they're going to move, please let us know and we can have those conversations.
As I said, and I support that. It'll pop up quick if things start to move, and we'll be able to look at them. So, as I say, just for the conciseness of this meeting, we're already 35 minutes into a 1-hour meeting. Let's get real focused. Okay, thank you very much. Stepping down now. So page 7, I'm looking at.
So I think the next
Yeah.
bill that, the next page
Yep.
is actually page 11.
Okay,
All,
and
all the others have been discussed and a position taken by the board.
Great. So yeah, I see that next one is House Bill 3085, proposed one support. This is behavioral health. Take it away, whoever may be up to speed on this.
Well, I can start and then have staff jump in. This is the bill that we supported in the last session, sponsored by Tana Sanchez. As we've discussed, there is an acute crisis in children's residential and behavioral capacity. The state's gone from 51 residential programs around the state for youth to 7 in the last 10 years. It's a real crisis. And so we're seeing kids stuck in ERs, kids stuck in temporary lodging or in hotels with DHS staff, or kids homeless and on the street because there's no capacity for high acuity youth. So this is a repeat of the bill that we supported the last time, sponsored by, at the time, by the co-chair of the Ways and Means Committee, but now sponsored by Representative Levy and Senator Broadman. They adopted her bill.
Great. Yeah, I'm supportive of proceeding with this. So we're talking about taking a position and a priority today. Commissioner Chang, were you ready?
Yeah, we had a discussion with Representative Levy the other day, and I would defer to Holly to explain what was discussed, because things evolve very rapidly. While I support the initial bill proposal, that may not be a viable, a viable legislative goal this session, but there may be other interim steps, essentially, or other things that help us get towards our long-term goal of having better capacity to support kids in the mental health crisis. Holly?
Yes, happy to weigh in. So this bill really, it doesn't do what it sort of initially appears to do, which is create a child psych facility in our area. What it does is based on the trauma regions across the state, and it creates a needed resource, which is like a triage center within the hospitals to help provide kind of more crisis respite, temporary respite for kids that are kind of stuck in the ED that need to go to inpatient. And so it would still require that we send children out of the area to get that inpatient need met. So that is still a need to identify where the resource is and sort of be able to take them out of the ED and put them in a more appropriate setting while they're waiting for a bed to open up. But after talking with Representative Levy, we really need residential capacity on this side of the mountain. We don't want to send children over the mountain to get their needs met. So after talking with her, she was very supportive, and she's really now looking to maybe recreate the bill or draft a new bill. I'm not sure, Commissioner Chang, what the process is on that, but to actually focus on Central Oregon and getting a residential capacity in Central Oregon. And it's also fiscally probably more attainable to do that versus the fiscal that would likely be attached to this existing bill. So that's sort of where things land. St. Charles and I have a meeting with a provider next week to talk about what it would take in order to make that happen here locally. What's the number, the ask that we would need to do? We're also looking at a congressionally directed spending request. We're looking at a number of avenues to sort of make the legislation that Levy might propose a bit more palatable, knowing there might be other funds that could help go towards this effort locally. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of support. We just sort of need to hammer out the number for the ask. So that's the next step for next week.
Is there?
And I would just jump in, Holly, and say that let's have a conversation about this offline, because it's not the budgets that are preventing residential treatment facilities for high acuity youth from existing. It's the regulations that have been passed by the legislature that have driven staff out of the system and created a crisis where you cannot staff these facilities. So there is a DHS bill that will be coming out in the next few weeks that is designed to attempt to address that issue, and I'm very curious to see that bill. So let's have a chat, and I'll chat with Representative Levy as well, because this really is a crisis that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, thank you for that, Doug. I think, yeah, that's absolutely correct. And that's what stalled our project up to this point, is trying to figure out how to get what we need here in Central Oregon, make it pencil out with the regulations that are existing in place. So more to come.
So how about a 2 watch? So it's on this list and understanding it's evolving.
Yeah, I'd support that, but I also want us to be ready to move quickly to support when it becomes clear what the new contours of the bill are.
Any
Or if
Monday,
there's a
Wednesday,
new
or
bill.
Friday. Yep. Commissioner Dare.
I find this, 7 years, and the kids have needed this forever, and we're still talking about it. I mean, please make this happen this spring. Look at what our DA told us the other day, that we've got a record number of murder cases in this county. It's mental health and it's drugs. So anyway, I would really love the kids to be taken care of. What if we actually pass something? It might happen in 3 years. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we have to really push on this. It's ridiculous that we keep talking about this every year and nothing ever seems to really happen. So, yeah, Holly, work your magic, get your
There you go.
wand out.
There's strong support. Thank you.
So maybe we should make this a priority 1 watch and be ready to support as soon as it takes, as soon as whatever the solution is takes shape.
And that's fine. I mean, I don't know if that's a substantive procedural priority opportunity for Doug or anybody, but that's fine. We can leave it 1 and watch.
I mean, this is one of the things that needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. So please.
Well, and our Central Oregon legislators are there for us. So yeah, let's all work together on this.
Yeah, and I mean, we are playing a very active role in shaping this legislation as well. I mean, Representative Levy was willing to pick this up because we told her about the situation, and we told her about Sanchez's bill, and she took an interest in taking it the next step.
Great. Number 1, monitor, watch. Mr. Bill Kuhn, raised hand.
Hey, Holly, I'm curious as to who you're meeting with at St. Charles, and let me know what I can do to assist. We might be able to get St. Charles behind this effort as well.
So St. Charles is very much behind this effort already. I've been working with Molly Wells Darling, also the Kaylee, their government relations. I think that's her title. Yeah. So there's a group of us that have been working on this, quite frankly, for 10 years. But more recently for very intensely for the last year. And so Molly and I will be meeting with a provider next week to kind of hammer out some details, and we'll be looping their leadership back in at St. Charles.
Okay, and I'll connect with Kaylee as well and kind of find out what's happening there. So
Yeah,
see what
Great.
I can do to
Thank
help.
we had
Thanks.
and we had St. Charles and Providence on a call talking about the original bill and discussing getting the State Hospital Association behind it. And if we are kind of shrinking, to fit within funds available from the state legislature to a, kind of Central Oregon specific bill, I don't know if we'd still get the State Hospital Association on board with us, but we would at least get Robin Henderson, who's one of, the behavioral health advisors for, at the state level, and to the governor. She would still be very supportive. So, Bill, you don't need to worry about hospital engagement on this.
Okay, thank you very much. Number 1, watched. What's our next item, Jen? Looks like
We are down to page 14, roads. Custody, there's 3 that have been discussed, but no position, and a new one on there. A new for this week. We may have discussed it last week. No, we didn't. Okay.
No,
Yeah,
I'll turn it over to Chris.
See the list.
thank you.
So the blue bills are just the placeholders for transportation funding. So we could probably even move those off and as to not distract us until a bill actually drops.
Or just
I'll
changing
throw-
them to the state of yellow, knowing that we've talked about them and they're basically dispositioned at 2 watch. So that's the
absolutely.
trick. So
Fair. So 3119, Doug kind of led off with some discussion of the various hearings that have taken place and presentations as this bill works its way through the process. This basically delays implementation of the DEQ's Advanced Clean Trucks rule. Been a lot of testimony from industry leaders. Daimler, who has the substantial investment in Oregon, where they manufacture trucks, and then Papé as a dealer as well. Just describing the issues with availability of the heavy truck, and we're talking class 7 and 8, which are semi-type trucks and tractors. Lack of infrastructure with regards to charging, and just simply products that don't quite meet the industry needs yet. The rule basically sets a graduated target, where a certain percentage of those class 7 and 8 trucks have to be zero emission vehicles. And the rules actually in place right now. The testimony from the manufacturers is quite convincing. They're asking for more time with this bill. The concern for Deschutes County and anyone else trying to buy a tractor truck is that the dealers are basically saying, we will only sell to you if you promise to buy a zero emission product as well. And so, when you're buying one or two, replacing one or two here or there, and you don't have the infrastructure yourself to charge a heavy vehicle, which is not like plugging it into your extension cord. It's a pretty significant process. It becomes untenable, to some degree, to when you're told by dealers that you have to buy something in order to have access to diesel, which is actually what we use. We've used renewable diesel fuel. All of our recent tractor purchases have been clean diesel engines, and they themselves substantially meet the EPA goals for NOx reductions, but don't quite meet the California standards, which Oregon is basically attach itself to. So we're recommending support, as in support the delay with the priority 2.
well, and for me, with my experience, and I saw part of that testimony, when it comes to a small commuter vehicle, like a 4-door small sedan, like I've been driving, or Amazon delivery van with some load capacity, the technology is there. The distance is known, the rechargeability capacity is there. But when it comes to rolling whatever the weight loads are of a large truck up and down the highway hundreds of miles, because I've seen it when my vehicle is full, people and cargo, it just drops precipitously. When the weather is cold, the battery capacity is way down. So I would support this.
Yeah, there's some testimony from the dealer that I found most striking was to charge a fleet of 100 zero emission semi trucks on a nightly basis. You would consume the equivalent power of all the homes in the city of Eugene. And so, and there's several other, there's only one public charging station in the state. It took 2 years to build on Daimler's campus with Daimler funds in partnership with PGE. So they're not, industry's just not ready, for the pace at which the current rules prescribe introduction of zero emission at that class.
Yeah.
Other thoughts?
I'll just jump in and say, clarify that one thing, Chris, you said is that some manufacturers are not selling unless you buy an electric vehicle. Actually, Daimler said this week in the second hearing that they've stopped selling into this market completely because they are worried that even if they sell in that 1-to-1, they're still in violation of the rule. And other manufacturers may follow suit. So it may be, don't know this, but it may be a situation where new vehicle sales will basically grind to a halt, except for the large Tesla trucks that are available.
Yeah. Based on their testimony, I think This bill will certainly punt it 2 years down the road, but 2 years from now, it's still going to be probably premature based on, you know, how things appear to be shaping up. But technology's rapidly changing, so, you know, perhaps we'll see what it's like then.
And I did send my letter in, and one of the things, Chris, we were talking about this, is that they needed to start building 55 charging stations a week, 3 weeks ago, and that would be for the next 10 years, and actually in order to have the capacity across the state, because I don't believe having the one in Swan Island is going to really be very helpful. So I don't know if 2 years is enough. When you say they needed 10 years to build 55 a week, yeah, it seems a little bit dreamy.
Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, I would say if we could support this bill and also offer constructive and proactive thoughts, it would be, I think that would be an appropriate bundle. And you know, in terms of constructive and proactive thoughts, I mean, the goal here is something that is worthwhile, in my opinion. And the ways that we could prepare ourselves before we create mandates and targets would be to provide technical assistance, incentives, and help to build out infrastructure. So, I mean, you know, I'd like to see us encourage the state to invest in those things to help facilitate this transition, because, you know, that there is a transition, you know, a technological transformation coming, and we can actually be on the leading edge of it instead of you know, putting it all on the backs of industry or otherwise hamstringing ourselves.
Well, I mean, I want to celebrate the power and work that could be done with a gallon of diesel, especially with a clean fuels truck. I don't know that we need to mandate that everything is electric. I mean, it's amazing the technology we have. It's evolving over time. But yeah, so as I say, it sounds like we're all generally going down the same path, just a little bit different conclusions there.
Yeah.
So that would show support for House Bill 3119. Sounds like at level 2 would be appropriate. And then, yeah, what does advocacy look like at this point, Chris? Do we write a letter as a board, or?
Yeah, I think we could certainly put a letter together. The amount of testimony in the record already is pretty astounding. And it's got a long ways to go. Maybe I'd look to Doug to advise maybe what the best place to plug in would be.
Well, I do think this bill is going to move or not move. The decision will be made relatively soon. So I haven't been able to read the tea leaves yet in the House Climate Committee. They had the first hearing. They were limited in their time. There were 60 witnesses signed up, and they only got through about 4. So I don't know how quickly this will move, but I do think if it's something the county wants to take a position on, it's probably advisable to begin preparing that position within the next week or 2, just in case things pop up quickly.
I'll put a draft letter together at the board's pleasure.
Okay.
That out.
Great. On page 14, we're going to change those blue items to yellow. So they will be in the 2 watch priority, understanding there's a package of transportation bills, and we will take a position on this. And as I say, letter to follow, content to be reviewed by the commission next Monday and or Wednesday.
Got all that. And there's one last one. It's on page 16. It's the sheriff's office. They've been assigned review for several bills. They reviewed 2. They have not been able to join these calls. So Senate Bill 773 was also discussed, I think, under the district attorneys. And so that's why we have that as a yellow one, support from the DA's opinion on that. So then we just have 2581 to watch. I can change that to yellow, or we can just keep it as blue, but I don't have any other background to provide to that unless Doug may. But from the sheriff's office, I haven't received any additional information on that.
Well, and just so then getting back to the concept here. So if we change blue to yellow and keep it in a watch mode, is that valuable for our meeting progress? I mean, does it make sense, Jen?
I mean, yeah, it will pop up, that it'll keep it on there. We do, it will show us if there's any upcoming hearings or movements that we need. It looks like there was a hearing on it yesterday. It was right around the same time the report was pulled, so.
Yep. Things are
But,
happening fast.
you know,
Okay,
things
but yeah,
happen,
so-
if things happen in the future, we'll be able to see it on the report.
It'll be on our Friday printed list in yellow. I mean, I support that for this at this time. So, and yesterday, the state resilience officer discussion happened as this report was being pulled. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it was. There was a hearing at 1 p.m. yesterday afternoon on this, at the House Committee Emergency Management, General Government and Veterans Public Hearing. So, I'm just reading that from report. I have no
Yep.
additional.
Yeah. So any other
Yeah.
thoughts, Doug? Is this a topic or domain? Yeah. So the commissioner support just changing that to yellow for watch. And then I can say that there may be a few bills that come through the emergency management SIEC work I do, moving some stuff from DAS to OEM, structural changes in the state that I may give an update at some point. I don't know that it's an advocacy item for Deschutes County proper, but there's another path I'm following also. 8:57, we're doing pretty well today. Any other thoughts? Yeah, Commissioner Chang.
There's a couple more things that I'd like us to be tracking.
Please.
The legislature is going to take another shot at wildfire funding this year. You know, the wildfire funding formula. I don't know where that is, but we should be watching that. If it actually, you know, because it affects what kind of fire suppression capacity we have at the state level and locally, and B, if it actually does try to address, you know, resiliency work as well, we would be one of the areas that would probably get the lion's share of that funding. So definitely want to track that.
Commissioner Chang, question. So where does money come for stuff like that? And I'm asking you kind of, this is your domain a little bit higher level. So, you know, we've got forest, wildfire funding, state budget we're talking about, and you were just critiquing the wolf depredation about where's the money come from. And I'm just thinking, okay, where's this magic money come from?
Well, this is a bill, you know, they're working, there's been a work group that has been trying since, you know, for a couple of years now to come up with a new wildfire funding formula. Much of the funding for the state's wildfire suppression capacity comes from assessments on rural property owners in ODF protected areas. And those folks were not happy about the rate increases they were facing. And so asked the state for some relief. So that's one of the things that the legislature is trying to accomplish, is setting taxation rates for ODF protected landowners at a reasonable level. What ends up happening is we're not collecting enough funding to address our suppression needs. And so, you know, this last year, when, you know, almost 2 million acres of Oregon burned, and we racked up major bills, what we ended up having to do was cover the deficit out of the general fund. So if we are doing that, it means there's that much less state general fund available for all the other things that we need the state general fund for. And it's not right. We should have a focused, predictable stream of funding to address our wildfire protection needs in the state of Oregon. The group failed in the last couple of years to come up with a viable, passable formula, but they are working on that this year. And unlike the wolf discussion we were having, it wasn't saying, oh, let's just create a cost that we need to pay for somehow. This is actually the opposite of that. This is the, how do we pay for the responsibility that we have to the people of Oregon? Is that adequate background?
Yes, thank you so much. Another bill? Oh, you just turned, you're on mute.
Alongside that, I'd say we need to be tracking Senator Golden's bill for these neighborhood protection cooperatives and efforts to try to get insurers to give Oregonians credit for the work that they've done to make their homes more resilient. Those
So
are,
we'll look for those on the bill tracker in the near future, because, yeah, do you have bill numbers?
I don't have bill numbers. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
I'll work
Those are
with Doug
just-
and Corey to try to track down bill numbers and get those added to the reports.
That's fine, thank you.
And maybe we could rope in Kevin to track some of that stuff as well.
Great.
A lot of the wildfire bills were still in draft form, and further amendments are pending, which is why we haven't seen them. I expect a big drop of bills later today, probably another 1,000 bills to drop into the system, and we'll probably see another 1,000 bills in the next couple of weeks. So some of these, that's as I take us back to the beginning of the meeting where I say it feels like we're already well into the session, but it's not even February yet. So a lot of these will become more clear as we go forward in the next few weeks.
Great. Okay, so it's 9:02. Is there anything else for this meeting? Seeing none, as I say, we'll be flexible for Monday and Wednesday and Friday every week for the next couple months on this discussion. Everybody have a great day.